engine, where do we start? The PRV engine, the bane of my life. So my engine has been problematic, to say the least. I'm not going to keep going on through this because this could take a very long time. I'm going to try and just really blister through this section because I could talk about this for years. But basically my PRV, the first problem I had was the soft cams. Some people say they haven't got soft cams, these cars. They have. People say, oh, I haven't had a problem. They did have an issue with some of the cams on these cars, and they were soft. The problem was my camshaft was worn, and you think, oh, maybe it's just a tappet clearance problem. So you adjust the tappets and then you start it back up and it still gets this knocking sound. It's like a constant knock, 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 knock. So it's like a ticking kind of knocking noise, and it is really, really annoying. I thought it was just tappet clearance. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was the actual cams had worn, and they'd worn so much that the cam was doing this on its journals. So when we measured it, when we eventually found the problem, it was 12 thou out. So it was doing this. So as you took it apart to adjust the actual tappet clearances, you'd get them correct, but as soon as you started it, it would move and it would keep doing this. Oh, I mean, exaggerating, but it would do this, the actual whole cam. And it wasn't until we took it apart and actually measured the cam journals and everything, we found this out. A massive problem. So it wasn't a case of just having to replace the cams and the rockers. It was a case that I had to replace the head as well. So I had to find a replacement head that was in good enough condition that we could put a new cam and lobes and everything in. So because the actual lobe of the cam is the actual head, so there isn't a sleeve you can actually add to it. So like I say, that was absolute nightmare because I didn't find this out until a lot longer into the actual process. So I'd spent money on the cams, I'd spent them on the rockers, so it was about $1,500 there. And then I had the problem with the heads as well, and of course then the new heads had to be skimmed, and it was just a nightmare. So like I say, I'm going to blast through this section. PRV engine relies on vacuum, electrical and mechanical systems. None of those three systems talk to each other, so you could have a problem on any of those three and you wouldn't know because you don't know which one of the three it is. It could be vacuum, which is quite a big part of the problem, or it could be a mechanical issue, or it could be electrical issue, another big problem. So any of those systems all need to be working but don't talk to each other, so there is no way that they connect with each other in the respect that we do with modern day cars. So it pays to know somebody that knows the PRV engine. It could be a Volvo dealer, an old Volvo independent possibly, because these were put in the Volvos for a little while, and all that was added was the emission control system for DeLoreans. This is where the power reduction came in on the engine, because they had to get the emissions low enough, and so they put on a complete emission system on there, which is a nightmare because it's a single point fuel injection system. It's got all these frequency valves and various settings and sensors and wiring that is absolutely useless. So this one has had it all taken off now. It hasn't got any of that. It hasn't got so much control as we had before, but the engine runs perfect. It cold starts, it hot starts. That's another problem you may find with your DeLorean, that when you go to see it, some don't hot start, some don't cold start, and that there's two different issues with those problems there. The DeLoreans were always classed as being slow, but it was because of the emission system that was slowing it down. So some people say the DeLoreans are slow, but the actual engine when it was in the Volvo wasn't slow. It was just that the emission system that they put on and the actual catalytic converter and the exhaust system made it slow. Like I said, this one's had the emission system off now, so that's given me some more power back, and also the exhaust system made no sense whatsoever. Say this is the block. One side would go all the way out of the bank, all the way around the back of the engine, all the way up to the catalytic converter where it met the second bank, because it's a V6, which went into the catalytic converter, which went into the box at the back, the actual silencer, and it kind of met on either side. So the actual silencer in the middle was getting really hot because it had two opposing exhaust gases, but it meant that the exhaust gas had to get all the way around the engine on bank number 2 to get to bank number 1, which was here. So this exhaust system went straight out and that exhaust system went all the way around. Made no sense whatsoever. So that was a massive restriction, I believe. This is my own personal view, but when I changed it and put a free flow exhaust on and took all of that away and literally just had 2 equal exhaust pipes coming out the back, the car was a different car. It took off. It could breathe now because the exhaust flowed equally on both sides. It amazes me that system was part. I can see why, because it's only a single cat you'd need on it. Today's use and gaining a bit more horsepower, the free flow exhaust was absolutely perfect, and in my opinion changed my car. On my particular car now, because it's basically on its 3rd renovation. You say, why 3 renovations? Well, the first one when it came over from the States, the second one when I got it and I had this knocking problem, which was the camshafts were worn, and also another refurb on top of that because that engine failed and I had to have a complete refurbed engine and transmission as well. But we'll go in that in a later date because we're talking about the engine. My car's had everything. It's had the braking, it's had cooling, it's had electrics, it's had central locking upgrades, suspension upgrades, cooling system upgrades. I will go through all this in the series. So I'm going to try and fast forward this section because I don't want to bore you here, but I need to let you know what I actually did to my engine. I can't remember it all, so I'm going to have to refer to my notes here because there's so much of it. I may speed this bit up. But on the restoration, strip down the VDO. So the VDO is the mixture system that's on here. So that's had a complete strip down. Water pumps overhauled. Replace the cooling hoses throughout. Replace the alternator. The alternator's been upgraded. The standard one can't quite cope, so it's best to have an upgraded. I think these are 170 amp alternators, which run the electrics a lot better. So the radiator's been replaced. It's had a complete brake overhaul all round, and it's had a suspension overhaul all round. The actual fuel tanks have been cleaned out. The actual chassis structure itself has been recoated in epoxy resin, so it's actually a thick coating on it now, so it won't rust. Because of course that is the only thing that will rust on the DeLorean. The fuel system's been completely cleaned and repaired. All the little bits and pieces that needed doing on that. It's had a renewed fuel pump. It's had full filters, air filters, and oil filters, of course. UK fog light upgrade. It's had UK headlight conversion. It's had refurbished wheels, new tyres. It's had gas struts all round. It's had a new speedo drive, what we were talking about earlier on. It's had new steering gaiters, handbrake cable, engine mounts. It's had a decap exhaust pipe, like I said before. It's had a fuel tank closing plate fitted. It's had front and rear fascias refurbed. It's had various electrical faults, so all of the electrics have been redone. Removed all the wheels, brake discs, brakes, suspension, rear hub carriers, upper and lower control arms, trailing arms, and a complete suspension overhaul. All the parts have been blasted down to bare metal and recoated. New wheel bearings all the way around. It's had anti-roll bars all blasted and painted and new bushes fitted. It's had descaling the chassis and undertaking some of the welding repairs that needed doing, though the factory upgrades to strengthen it up underneath have been done. It's had new engine mounts fitted, overhaul of all the brake calipers and the pistons all round, various wiring loom repairs, which I was talking about earlier on with the fuse box. Drive shaft seals have been replaced, and the auto sump gasket, I think I'm on my 3rd set, and the car's hardly done any miles, so that's been a bit of an issue. So underneath the chassis had a complete coating of POR 15. That's kind of like a hard grey primer, and it actually coats and seals the actual chassis. So it's had the transmission drive coupling seals and auto box sump gasket done. I'm on my 2nd time round because the actual transmission has been out for the 3rd time. We'll go to that later. Brakes bled, all the cooling pipes have been cleaned, all those hoses, all the silicone ones have been replaced with all the MC factory radiator along with brackets. It's had front balance mounted brackets. It's had new fuel pump, fuel hose, filter, boots and cover. Stainless steel closing plates fitted in various sections, including all underneath the chassis. Rear fascia mounting plates have been repaired with stainless steel ones, so that's the parts where the bumper clamps onto, so they're all stainless steel now. They can get rusted away from the actual road grip and wetness at the back there, so that's all been done. Fuse compartment's been stripped out and upgraded. This is a big issue, by the way. When you get a DeLorean, check the fuse box first, because inside the actual car is a fuse box, and that can actually overheat because the headlights, especially on this one, the headlights just being on, overloaded the circuit because like I said, the earth wasn't very good, and it actually melted 4 of the fuses out. So that really needs looking at. You have to upgrade that There is tips online to how to upgrade it, but definitely gets hot in there, so something to look out for. So replaced all the faulty relays and upgraded the relays at the same time. Repaired all the wiring. There was some scotch in there, which if you get one, make sure they're gone, because you don't want any short circuit on this car whatsoever. The VDO was completely rebuilt and overhauled. Again, that's the mixture system on this car. That can cause you the hot and cold start issues as well, so that is definitely worth looking at. The water pump's been overhauled twice. Stainless steel rear mounting plates fitted, like I said, on all the sections at the back. Interior headlining has been replaced. Front and rear fascias painted. Auto box malfunction. So it started a little while ago, this did, and we thought it was the auto governor on the transmission, and also it could have been the wiring to the solenoids inside the transmission. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I had all forward gears, no reverse, so we found out that there was wear on the plates inside, so the whole lot had to come out again. So the transmission's been out a few times, had to go out, restripped, completely refurbed, and just waiting for that to go back in, so I'll update you on that. But talking about the engine, so I'm not going to get into the transmission part at the moment. So both manifolds were 3D scanned, had new manifolds made, coupled to a stainless steel exhaust system. Aircon's been refilled once, but you can't get the R12 now, so unfortunately can't use the system. You can convert it, but I've heard a lot of problems with it because the gas is thinner. It actually seeps out through the seals. So I don't know the solution to that. So I'll let you know what we're going to do. All the boots, the doors, all the seals, everywhere, all the way around have been completely replaced. The roof box been reinforced, like I said, with those studs. The engine's been flushed, new camshafts. It's had partial refurb. We've had deep cleaning, acid cleaning, all the parts, all redone. The engine's had lower saddle and sump swap with existing engine. So basically, the Volvo sump is different to the DeLorean sump. So I had to do some adjustment on that. So there is a little bit of work to be done there. All the tappets have been adjusted, head and cylinders fully cleaned. Along with the tappets being adjusted, I've had all the heads cleaned and polished as well. So the engine's been rewired. The engine's been painted and reinstalled professionally. The vacuum system's been completely gone through and all new pipes and everything fitted. The engine's been tuned and it's been flushed with oil, and then did 100 miles on the new engine and then did it again. So the engine's been flushed, and also the water system's been refurbed many times. I have problems with the engine overheating. Of course, the radiator's at the front and the pipes go all the way across the car, so it takes ages for it to dissipate the heat. And when I put the Back to the Future kit on, I haven't got the louvers anymore because all the Back to the Future kit's on there, so it's increased the temperature in the engine bay because the airflow is not there anymore. So what I've had to do is fit extra fans on the Back to the Future equipment to extract all that hot air back out. We had a lot of cooling issues with the car, but I think it was mainly just down to the water pump and just making sure that the system is perfect. So all the pipes have been replaced, everything's been done, water pump's been replaced, and we seem to have got on top of it at the moment. The gauge though is still faulty. It still says it's a lot hotter. Used a digital thermometer on the engine and it doesn't tally up with the dashboard, so obviously the dashboard is reading higher than it actually is, so that's concerned me a bit, but a job for another day.